the care teams, we have been working on some models, and this is to improve learnability and scalability. We have the objective of this is to improve learnability and scalability. And so the CHT UI, or user interface, is being updated to align with material design patterns. So far, we have updated 20 windows. And also, we also did a slight update to some other 13 windows, especially on their text and some buttons. And we also updated translations on these 13 windows. And all these information or these changes will be, they're expected to be included in the 4.4 release that is coming soon. So we have, I will share a link where if somebody wants to learn more on all the changes and all the 20 windows that were updated, they can go through it and read. There's a video that clearly or details all the areas that were updated, all the windows that were updated. Then we have, we're also working on targets, and it's what we'll be working on next. And the reason again for refurbishing the targets tab is because we also want to align with material design and also ease learnability of the app. So I'll also share a link of the GitHub issue that people can go in and learn more on what we are planning to do and how some of those changes will look like as depicted in this slide. So care teams will continue to announce the updates on the forum and community calls as most of these changes continue being rolled out.
May I ask a question to Leah? Yeah, these goals in this performance, goals, for example, pregnancy is registered, the goal is 4. And under 1 sick child assessment, the goal is 5. Who set these goals? And what informs the goal setting?
So mostly they are programmatic, based on what has been agreed. And so it changes, it varies from one project to another. So it's basically, I can basically say it's like a programmatic decision. So for MOH, it may be different. For another partner, it may be different, or it may vary from one MOH to another. Michael,
so are the program people within MOH involved in this goal setting? Because it's important for us to be sure that there's been sufficient consultation and consensus on the targets put into the system. Because I've seen some areas where the performance is usually very low, elsewhere performance is very high. But I think it all depends on the target that was set.
Sure.
So were the program people in the MOH consulted, involved in this goal setting?
Whatever layer is showing is a sample of what performance can be or targets can be for a partner. So that's a configuration that shows that there is that capability to set those performance targets from one partner to the other. So whatever is showing here in the screen is not related is not related as a number to MOH. What we currently have for MOH, even when you look at the performance tab, doesn't have those goals, but it just shows an example of some things you can input for CHPs so that they can track that along the work that they're doing. And yes, whenever they are being set, there are some partners who say that this is the performance metrics they have put for the CHPs. So we work with them to make sure that they're included in the app so that CHPs can progressively track how they are doing. So it's done jointly with the program people. and once signed off is the only time they implemented in the system.
For the CHT Sync updates, that's on the dashboards. We are deploying this feature, that's CHT Sync in production. So what we're remaining with currently is just having this data in the dashboards. So as I mentioned in the previous call, so the CHT Sync feature is a backend feature where we just move away from, we just have a different way or an enhanced way of copying over data from CouchDB to Postgres. So we'll be documenting our learnings on that, and then also doing some continuous discovery with our users. So we've been doing that for the last the last month. We've been doing that. Yeah, so CHT Sync will basically serve as a substitute, which is an enhanced way of actually copying data from CouchDB to Postgres, which is the analytics database. Yeah, so just a key difference that normally comes up basically from questions when you do our presentation is that what's the biggest difference between Couch2PG and CHT Sync, since both are more or less doing the same thing. However, one is more enhanced. So what you see on your screen on your left is a container on Couch2PG. What I've highlighted at the bottom of your screen is the sync time. So Couch2PG is implemented in a way that sync between the two databases is set at a certain interval. So this run is completed, and the next one will be run at some stipulated time, as you can see down there. And a key difference here is for CHT Sync, what we have is this data is actually being synced almost in real time. So what you're seeing on your screen is a container, log/container that just it's a data pipeline tool. So as you can see, what I've highlighted in the middle of your screen is the timestamps. You can see between the 45th and the 47th second, that's the difference in terms of syncing time. So this is a key difference, which means our dashboards are more reliable, and they are more accurate, giving a more recent representation. So we'll also be documenting the migration of Couch2PG to CHT Sync. Lastly is we'd like to invite the community members here to a call, which will be showcasing the CHT interoperability work. The call will be held next week on Wednesday. That's the 20th. So more details will be shared. I've shared this on the community forum, and this will also be, the links will also be on this slide that our community team will share.
Let me share my screen, and I'll show a video. So we're going to be showing the CHT Cloud today. It's a tool, a CLI command line interface tool that we use to deploy a Kubernetes cluster for self-hosters. So you'd be able to deploy your own Kubernetes cluster of type K3s on servers of your choice. All you need to specify are IP addresses. And I'll show you a short video. So this is the command, and if you pass -h to it, you can see the commands available. And the setup cluster is what creates a cluster. This is going to be a sped up video in the interest of time. So you can see this is the structure of the command setup cluster, and we specify the IP addresses. Right now I'm showing 4 IP addresses defaulting to a 4-node Kubernetes cluster, and then we specify the key name and the username. This is basically the SSH access that you've been given. And we'll see how it creates the clusters. The key name, and you can see the username as well. this first IP is the master node, and the rest of the IPs are the worker nodes. And this is my key, and this is the username that I've been given access to. So I've just run it. It's installing K3s on the master node, and it's starting it. Now it's adding the rest of the worker nodes into the cluster. It goes into each of the worker nodes that we specified one by one and sets up the K3s installation and adds them to the cluster by adding them to the master node. All right, let me. Okay, you can see the cluster has finished. Now you can see the cloud status, if we've been successful or not. It shows you we have 4 nodes created right here. The first one is the control plane or the master, and you can also see the namespaces, the pods, services, everything that's been created here. And we just did this by just running one command. There are other command options you can see here, and we'll put out the detailed documentation. The add node to cluster, it adds a node. If you want to make your cluster like one node larger, keep adding nodes, you just use that add command script. And you just specify the new node IP and the master IP. It automatically configures it for you. All right, let's pass and show you how we can do a deployment on it. This is the CHT deploy, that script that we discussed last time as well. And it's found in the CHT core repository in the /deployment directory. So these are the configuration files. I'm naming the project name, and I've chosen 3 CouchDB nodes, basically making it a 3-node CouchDB cluster. So this configuration would have to be filled out, and then one thing that's interesting, I'm going to go through it, is these are the nodes that I'm going to specify. So I'll look at the cloud status, and then I'll get the names of the nodes. And then after getting the names of the nodes, I'll tell the deploy script to deploy each of the CouchDB nodes to that node. So I copy the names of the nodes, and then I'm putting it here and specifying basically the name of the node where that CouchDB that node should sit. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to run the deploy script. And this is that you can find all of these things that I shared in GitHub. CHT deploy and then -f, and I'll specify the configuration file. And the configuration file is what I just showed you. All right, now it's creating the namespace on that cluster. It's creating the release, install the certificates, and so forth, basically deployed. So as you can see, the CHT has just been deployed on a multi-node K3s cluster. And I can see what has exactly been deployed by looking at the troubleshooting commands under the troubleshooting directory. And then let's list all resources under this project name. And you can see that the parts have been deployed. These are the containers, CouchDB containers are creating. You can see API Sentinel services as well. So we've basically deployed the CHT, a multi-clustered CouchDB based CHT cluster on the K3s cluster that we deployed. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Oh, 4.3 is great. We added a bunch of things. Some highlights here. We have updated the way that patients are registered via SMS, and we have enabled the possibility to add a phone number for these patients. It means that you can change your configuration for your registration transition to add phone number validation, to add phone number fields. This is very valuable for SMS deployment. Another thing that we added, another feature, is a new API endpoint that exports Prometheus formatted metrics of API request performance. This means that you will have an overview of how much time it takes for API to respond to specific types of requests. These requests are grouped by the path, so like the path that you see in your browser, for example, or like an API endpoint that the client calls. It's completely public and it doesn't expose any kind of security or like sensitive information. And it's already included in Watchdog, so you can add this as a Prometheus or a very visual overview of how these requests look like. And the bigger thing that I want to talk about here is that we reworked downloads replication. This is part of the work that we started a few months ago to improve performance, scalability, and it's on our path to high availability. I can talk about this if we have time. I have a demo. I don't know if you want to run it. The whole idea is that users will not see the difference. The impact is mostly on the server. We are not high availability means that we can have multiple copies of the data available for requesting at the same time. And if one of the copies goes down, then the other copies are still available. It's like think about it as a RAID. And this is a requirement. This is a requirement for a lot of our big national deployment. So here we're going to see how comparatively 4.2.2 versus 4.3.1. This is a very big user. You can see that they both have 44,000 documents. These the whole performance improvement is specifically visible for very large users. These exist in many of our production deployments, even though a lot of their documents are purged and they don't get downloaded on the device. The fact that those documents exist in the database still affect performance on the server side. So I am using two very big users here. Oh, you can see that in the left-hand side, the sync is already completed, and in the opposite, in the right-hand side, the sync has already completed, and in the left-hand side, it's still going. But that's about it. Sorry, I went a little bit over time. Better performance, availability, good things.
Sorry, I didn't pick. I saw the improvement in sync. I just wanted to get the improvement in terms of the infrastructure. I didn't pick that.
I'm not exactly. Can you please clarify the question? Improvement in terms of infrastructure?
Sorry, in terms of what has been done differently.
You mean technically?
Technically, yes.
So we have we changed the algorithm in a significant way. We no longer follow a specific CouchDB endpoint. Like we completely removed it. We completely removed a lot of code that added a lot of complexity. So this makes the CHT much lighter to maintain and much easier to understand. So from the actual server side point of view, you can think about it as the server not making one of three very heavy requests. So out of three, one is gone. So two are still remaining. And with 4.4, we're going to remove another one from those very expensive requests.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Philip. And feel free to test that and then share your updates on the forum.